cook. Oh, you cook. You cook. Oh, you. Is that your head dude?
Yeah.
You cook. Oh, you made a meal.
Sorry.
That's okay.
My door's locked. My key didn't work. Did my key is it supposed to work?
Okay. Are you leaving?
It's really
Oh, my apologies. Have I explained the soft misogyny of room temperatures? I explained it to you. Yeah. Average office temperature is always set for the body comfort of a male, which is usually 2 to 3 degrees below that of a female. Average biology, not necessarily, of course, gender. However, they have shown that greatly decreases office efficiency because if you're too cold, you tend to bundle up, put your hands like this, and then you don't write or type or get much done. But they've also shown that if you increase the temperature to the average comfort of the average female, biological female, the males are more uncomfortable, but their efficiency doesn't drop. Because if you're too hot, you just like go in a t-shirt or something, and you don't have to bundle up, you can still work just as hard. So really, all offices should be set to the average comfort of the female, they're not. And because I am male, and I am large, and I think I have that particular gene set that certain people have, means they don't feel cold very easily, my idea of a good room temperature is between 15 and 17 degrees. Right now, I think it's slightly too hot. It's currently 18.6. But, because I just explained all that, I'm turning it up, and it actually doesn't take long. I'm going to 8. But, for all of you, it's now set to 21. Let's see what happens. What? Okay. Don't press buttons.
What does it do?
You'll be glad to know these might be working soon.
What is it? What else?
And I might also show you how to use it. Pay attention. Anything you use, whether it's gas or water, and in some ways, I've even seen electricity, but I don't know if it's in standards. It also works for air. If there's a switch, if it is 90 degrees, it is off. If it is in line, it's on. So if you need to shut off the gas, you see the tap, but you don't know if it's on or off. If it's in line, it's on. If it's crossways, it's off. So this is currently off. It's just a baffle. That runs the motor somewhere else in the building that starts sucking air. We can turn that on. They were running around here trying to get these to work. They're like, no matter what we do, we can't get suction. And when he was in here, I said, would this help? And then I just turned it on, and then they had suction.
Why is it not working?
It is. Do you hear that?
No.
Exactly.
That was quiet.
It's so quiet. I can, if you put your hand there, so you can verify, there's a very faint breeze. It's very quiet. It doesn't need to be a lot, but it just takes anything that was under here, the vapors would just go away. So it is actually working. So we might actually be able to get in the lab soon, which would be fantastic. So, is it formative or is it summative? I will explain. Everybody good? Okay, you're gonna write a quiz. This is not indicative of how many quizzes you're gonna write. I just want to nail it. So you're gonna write a quiz. That is the only data I have. That's all I know about you. So of course it's summative, because that's the only data I have. So of course it counts. If someone came up to me tomorrow and said, should they go to the university? That's what I have. So the next one. I don't know if we're writing that many, but it's roughly 1 a week. And then you write a test. That test is summative. If quiz is less than test, then these switch to formative. So if you do better on your test, I get rid of those results because you learned. then they keep counting. Because why should I punish you? Because you had a bad day. Because also, the next question is, Mr. Neufeld, I did bad in the test, I did worse. Is there a retest? Yes and no. You're going to write some more quizzes. This was the ABC section. You're now going to write quizzes on DEF. So summative, 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 test. If quiz and test is less than that test, then formative, 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 formative. So you have now written on 2 units. If you have done better and you shown that you improved, then I can justify this is your latest knowledge. Quiz, 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 same thing. You will then write a giant test. This is like your mid-year exam on kinetics, equilibrium, and solubility. And if you do better on that one, you could actually get rid of all those. So they can become formative provided you do better. If you do worse, then your earlier tests will still count. It's not like it's going to. So essentially, they become formative if it helps you. Now, the whole question, is it formative, is it summative right now? Have you heard of like this will go on your permanent record? When you get your permanent record and it says 12 there, what data do they include? Learning skills, midterms, like what do you expect to see there? A number. So let's say that number is that. That's the only thing they ever see. Your mark at midterm, your quiz marks that you did really badly that eventually became formative or was summative. The time they said you did this bad thing that's going on your permanent record. There is no such thing as a permanent record. The only thing on your transcript, the only thing is your percent mark. That's it. And if you're younger, like if you look at your old transcript from like grade school, they have proficiencies. But in the province of British Columbia, from 10 to 12, you were required to have a percent mark. Yes?
So like the mid-year exam
Yeah.
could count for your entire grade.
Good. Well, no, there's labs. They don't replace labs.
Oh.
Right. So there's a percentage. It's a bit like in university, labs counted for 15%. And then you're like, well, I could just, like, labs take 80% of your time. You're writing them up. You're like, well, I'll just slough on my labs. Their rule was, it only counts for 15%. But if you fail your lab, any lab, you fail the course. So that's how they do it. Yeah, that was the University of Victoria. I went back recently to see if they changed their policy in some areas. The most that they changed it is that you're now allowed to be sick for like a few days. The old policy was if you missed a lab, you failed the course. I phoned the lab because I had mono and like I could barely move, like I was very sick. And I said, I've got mono, I can't come in. I mean, I'll force myself in, but can I miss the lab? And the lab tech, who's the instructor, said, absolutely, you can miss the lab, no problem. So then I went in and was like, I'd like to make up the lab. He goes, oh no, you failed the course. I was like, but I phoned in and I asked. He said, oh yeah, you phoned in to ask if you were allowed to fail the course. Anybody can fail the course. So I had to go to the head of chemistry, explain, bring a note from my doctor, and the doctor was like, the head of chemistry was like, yeah, we've had problems with him. And he then graded my labs from then on, and I was able to make up the lab. Actually, no, he was lazy. He said, instead of doing 2 labs that year, labs at university can take like 8 weeks to do 1 lab because you're doing a lot. I will just put all your mark on your last lab, which I got 100% on. So I got 100% on that part of the course. So yeah, you do have to do well in labs, and they're not the same as tests. There's a little different skill and competency involved, so you can't replace those. Also, I really hesitate to bank on the fact that I'm going to improve over time. Have you heard of the Red Queen effect? It's often mentioned in biology with respect to evolution. It is first explained in Alice in Wonderland, in which the Red Queen grabs her hand and says, we have to go, and they take off running. And then when they stop, they're in exactly the same spot. And Alice says, well, I thought we were running so fast we'd be somewhere else. And the Red Queen's like, no, you have to run as fast as you can just to stay in the same spot. If you want to go somewhere, you have to run even faster. And that was an example for evolution. Even though you're evolving, your predator or prey species that you're in competition with is also evolving. So you have to get better and better. As we acquire more knowledge, the course does increase in complexity. Because once you know reaction kinetics, you have to know it with equilibrium. This is why I test it together. You need to know both. But that is also a more difficult cognitive task. So on average, marks tend to go down. Not necessarily a lot, but they do. So your effort needs to compensate for that. Your first test will probably be the highest mark you get all year because it's on less material. That is not true for every person. I took Chem 207, which was inorganic catalysis, and the professor did the same similar style of talk, but what he did is he wrote the midterm, and then when like 90% of the class failed it, he put up a graph of all the quizzes you wrote that he told you in advance didn't count. So you didn't study for them half the time because you're like, oh, they're formative, they don't count. So he then put up a graph of all of your quizzes with your names taken off, your midterm mark, and then his prediction of what your mark would be at the end of the year. And if you didn't do well in all the in-between ones, you weren't going to pass the course. It was the day before you could drop the class. And you would say, if you're not going to do that well, you should drop the class down. And then that way, his class of 35 became a class of 10, because I really think he hated teaching. I got, I think, on the midterm, like 12%. So I should have dropped the class. I actually just sat down and really buckled down and studied for all those quizzes I missed, and ended up doing quite well. I have a whole degree in chemistry. Just like I'm not, like when I say things, you should know this class, this Chemistry 12 class, these units, my grade in high school was 51%. I never did my Hebden. We had Hebden then. It was still called Hebden. It was the earlier edition. It was little tiny booklets, and I never did the practice problems. I relied on my innate ability because I thought I was smart. It turns out I wasn't, but then when I did badly, it was like, that's because I didn't study. And I had built an excuse. Also, I didn't care about chemistry. I went into physics. And then when I found out that the physics people smelled and the computer science people smelled, I went back into chemistry and got a whole degree. So when you tell your parents that you're being taught by someone who got 51% in chemistry, do mention that I also have a whole degree in it. Like I did it later. So this is not intended to scare you. A little bit of realism is useful. That be prepared to do the work as you go along. If you do your Hebden, you do your practice, you do well in quizzes, and then when you notice it's getting harder, you put in the extra work, you can find. I've had lots of students go up. I've had students get to the final exam and get the best mark they've ever gotten in their entire life. Like it's been fantastic. But they put in the work and did the groundwork to do that. I mark it this way to give you the best mark possible. I don't want you to start thinking they're all formative and not working. You need to work from the beginning. So yeah, they're summative until I have other evidence, and then they become formative. If you have a test with new material, that test always has to count. But at the very end of the year, you have an exam on reaction kinetics, equilibrium, solubility, acids and bases, more acids and bases, more acids and bases, and redox. How many of you took redox in grade 11 because you're an AP? Did you like it? Yeah. No. Okay. It'll be better here. You do it so fast in grade 11, often I feel it's terrible. However, if you've noticed the way I've set up the course, the notes match the practice, which will match the quiz, which will correspond like the ABC will all match all the way through. You'll know exactly what you're studying. You'll be able to get practice problems. You have the Hebden. There's lots of opportunities in there to work. I'm here every tutorial. I'm on afternoons on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Students who are falling behind or they don't feel they understand, just coming by on those days and just doing your Hebden there could be hugely helpful if you need that kind of just-in-time help. Like, oh, You stop at a question, you spend 30 minutes confused is not a useful expenditure of your time, but if there's someone there to give you that just-in-time help, that might work. So in terms of how I grade, yeah, your first quiz is summative, but it will eventually be formative, provided you do better.
Do you do like extra help?
Yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoons I'm on duty. If your sport absolutely does not match that, you can never get to that extra help. I live on campus as a house parent. They don't let me leave. And so like I'm around on Wednesdays. If you let me know when you're by, I do reserve, like because I'm on Tuesday and Thursdays, if I have an appointment, I will go on a Wednesday. But we can always coordinate a time on Wednesdays that can work if needed. I had someone who came over regularly when they could last year because that was the only time they could manage. You may not, I was going to say, does anybody have any questions in this about or concerns? If you have a concern but you don't want to mention it now, just come see me after and explain more how it works. Or if you have a concern like, I don't know if this will, I want to make sure that you're getting grades that are both, they have to be fair, but also are in your favor. So fair means I don't want to be on an operating table and then the last thing I see is a student's face going, don't worry, Mr. Neufeld, I'm the surgeon today. And I, oh God, they passed what they shouldn't have. And then I fall unconscious and now you're operating on me. I have to know that you know the material. But on the other hand, if you show improvement, I don't want to grade you badly, so that's why they can become different things. If I graded people and I didn't take into account improvement, that wouldn't be fair either. Question? You had your hand up.
Oh, I was about the sheet.
Oh, like the notes?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to go back to that. Any questions about the grading? Any worries about the grading immediately? Okay. You will get both a proficiency grade, because I am required to, not by the province of British Columbia, but by Brentwood College School. And you'll get an actual percent. I run 2 mark books to double check that I'm not too far off. A traditional one and a regular one. I usually eyeball it. You will always get the proficient grade, especially if it's higher. But if the traditional one shows you as higher, I can use that to justify bumping you up. That's why you'll get a number, and then when I mark it, there's a way you can access that online, and you'll see the individual proficiencies per question. So this was like a communications question, a critical analysis question. You can go through it individually to see where that comes from. It's probably a bit harder for you to tease that out because proficiencies have an error rate of like plus or minus 10% because they are so large in terms of their grading, but that might help justify the weird grades that Mr. Wardrop's mark book spits out sometimes that even I'm not sure why they do that. If I take 2 assignments and I put them in at different times, it will sometimes pop out different grades. So if you're like, why is that one 5% higher? I'm like, I don't know. If you ask me, why is it not 10% lower? I'm like, oh, because you got this and this. So it does some sort of calculation, but a spreadsheet I can explain, and I have one of those.
How much of our grade have been marked?
Right down to nothing.
Oh, yeah.
I use it for learning skills. But at the end of the year, you know how I told you that slight, downward trend? At the end of the year, I take your head in. If you've been working at it all year, you've been putting things in there, I put that in as a mark. And it usually gives you a little boost.
You don't do that by like term?
For a Hebden?
Yeah.
No, I do it at the end of the year. Other questions? Concerns? What I don't want to do is after this, you walk away thinking I got to drop the course. If you're thinking that, come and see me because we can get you through chemistry. And we can come up with a plan to get you through chemistry. I don't want you panicked about it, but I want you to be realistic. Chemistry is considered one of the most difficult high school courses to take in any school, not Brentwood. And I don't think it's that difficult, but like I got 51% of it because I wasn't willing to do all that work in the first place. And so you just should have a bit of realism to figure out what it is. My claim to fame is like, I have a double major in biochemistry and chemistry, which is the most difficult double major to get in the world, because those are the 2 most hardest courses. What's the most difficult PhD to get? Not engineering. It's easy to get a PhD in engineering. You just have to build something. Done. Psychology. The most easiest bachelor's in psychology, the most difficult PhD is psychology. Because you have to do an experiment and contribute to human knowledge, and people lie, and they don't show up to your experiments, or they don't put in the thing, or they decide that they don't want you to have access to their data anymore because of privacy rights. And you have to worry about ethics. You're not allowed to put them in a maze.
That's harder than becoming a doctor.
That's way harder than becoming an engineer. Because an
Well, yeah.
engineer, you want to get a PhD. You just build something new.
Why would you be a PhD in engineering?
In engineering?
Yeah. It's kind of
Because
useless.
I don't know. People do that.
Yeah,
And then
it
they
seems
become like
pretty
super
useless.
engineers. I just assume it goes up in classes and eventually you get a cape, which is literally true. You get a PhD, you get a cape.
Actually,
Depending on the type, you get a special type of fur that goes around it. Yeah. I have nothing because I only have 2 bachelors. Okay. What was your question?
Oh, it was about the exo thing.
It was about the accent?
The exothermic.
Oh, yeah? This one?
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't done it on the board yet. Is anybody else noticing it's getting uncomfortably hot?
No.
Oh my god.
A barrel or
Okay, I gotta keep it on the time because I do want to make sure you have extra time for your quiz. Stay behind if any of that worried you. I want you to be able to do well, and I want you to have a reasonable, and at sometimes maybe you can even be happy in chemistry class. I really enjoyed my degree in university once I got used to it. And then I attended my spouse's psychology classes just for fun because those were also interesting. In an endothermic reaction, what's happening to the energy? Absorbed. But I like that sort of did the whole word. So it's being taken in. Which side is the energy term on? Reactants. And the products have more energy. Because the products have literally gone up. And then when you left, it seems so long ago since I've seen you. It's almost like a new class. There's even some people I know like they're brand new. I don't even think it was like you've never been here before. Exothermic. Which side is the energy? What happens to the energy? Released.
where is that?
Oh, it's not there. You had to draw it separately somewhere.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? It's not a separate page.
Oh,
I found out the page went
Oh,
missing,
excellent.
and then I put it. What side is the energy term on?
Oh, no, I know. Excellent. That's right.
Products. And the products have
Place where you're gonna have to erase all.
less energy. So if I was to draw it, I won't get you up and running around just yet. And now I have to. I said a delta H of minus 60, an energy of activation of 100. So why don't I go 10, 50, 100, 150. No, hold it. That's going to be, who cares? Let's see what it does. I don't know what scale you picked, but if I pick this scale, I'm going along at 100, and this is energy in kilojoules. What do I do? With those two numbers, what should this do? No, that seems wrong. They never go down. Which one of those matters right now, the delta H or the energy of activation? Energy of activation. The energy of activation goes up by 100. Yep, this is a terrible scale.
Wait, why does the energy go on the product side for exothermic?
I will show it as soon as we're done this. No. 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175. Just to make it, you can use whatever scale you want, but I just want to make it really obvious. So this goes up to 150 plus 100. And then where should it drop to? Oh, crap. What mistake did I cleverly make? Where am I gonna have to go with my energy?
-10.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. Do you have -10 energy?
Yes.
Really? No, you can't. Because 0 is literally 0. You're at absolute 0. There's no energy in the bond. In fact, there's no bond. So, like, -10 would be like anti-bonds, which don't exist. Like, they're like monopoles in terms of their unicornness. So I'm going to take this whole thing and move it up to 100. So at least I can make it make sense. This is the problem when I try and make up examples out of my head, is I don't get the pacing right. So since it's -60, where does, if I put it here, where does it have to come down to?
40.
40. So we're going to come down about there. That looks like 60, 40. So we'll go. Evan, your question was?
Oh, why does the energy go on the product side? If
So-
you're, like writing the
Is the energy still in the chemicals?
no.
No, because it came out. So
Yeah.
where
So
did?
okay.
No, keep going.
It's like I'm saying, like if you're writing out the reaction, if you're saying that the energy is on product side, wouldn't it mean like it has more energy than it started with?
No, because the energy on the product side means the energy is not in the bonds.
Oh.
So this is higher, but we don't write an energy term there because it's just them. We don't know what their bond. You can look up tables of bond energies and do calculations and do stuff with it. We don't do it in regular Chem 12. You might get into it in a little bit in AP to calculate things, but we never put it in an equation. We just record the change in energy. So this had a high energy. It went down. It now has lower energy, and now this energy came out of it. And now this energy is not in the bonds, it's in the environment.
I see.
So environmental energy would be heat, light, sound. It might be useful like ATP where it's breaking apart and you're making it do something. But whatever it is, it's not in the bond anymore. These are
Kinda
really
like
low
gas
energy.
being, like, given
Yeah,
out.
yeah, like a gas being given off. A lot of the explosives, this would again be reaction coordinate. When I was in grade 10 and 11, we got in a little bit of trouble because what we started, the teacher accidentally told us something useful, and what he told us is that if we have a reaction, lots of explosives have nitrogen in it, if you look at the explosive compounds. And the reason for that is they make nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas is a very stable, low energy compound. So when they combine and they make nitrogen gas, they give off a ton of energy because these are all high energy, they drop down, they give off that. So then we got a textbook and we just flipped through it until we could find molecules we had access to that had nitrogen in it, and then we would like react them or look up how to set them on fire, and then we learned how to explode things. And that is how I made nitroglycerin from scratch. Okay, potential energy diagrams of forward and reverse reactions. Was that too quick for anybody? Does anybody still need to get something down? Okay. What I would like you to do, let's make that 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and I just realized I haven't taken attendance. You are Beatrice.
Yep.
Sorry, I accidentally hit it as soon as I said your name, Mark. Karis?
Yeah.
Cole?
Yep.
Declan?
Yep.
Elena?
Sport.
Evan?
Yep.
Hannah?
Yep.
Isabel?
Yep.
Marcus?
Yep.
Mattwood?
Yep.
Oh. Mia?
Yep.
Naomi?
Yep.
Nicholas?
Yep.
Portia? Portia?
Yeah.
Yes. Sienna?
Yep.
Excellent. Saturdays are so quick. I was about to tell you to draw that graph, and I was going to send you the board, and we probably don't have time for that. Because ensure that you have extra time, I want to make sure you get the quiz now. So if you can put everything away. Get out a calculator if you wish, a pencil, an eraser. You can have a pen if you want. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. And for this one, usually I'll give you a data table, but for today, you can get out your own data table. But please take all of your binders off your desk. I'm going to come around and look at it. I formally take it in at your first test, and this time I'm going to come look at it and then take a picture of it with your face. So I see a picture of you and your work. So I have it like, here's where you got to, and I don't want to go through and actually check on it, but I want to see your work, and I remember who it is. Yeah, just take pictures. I promise not to post them to SmugBunk, which would be weird. And now you also have to spread out. There should be gaps between you and the next person's desk, or just move desks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just have your head in on your desk somewhere. I'll come take a look at it. 1, 2, 3. Pass it along. That's your answer sheet. Yes, you would definitely need that.
How do we do the tests like this?
You can ask to roll, and once they're done with it, you can't go back and forth.
It's a scan.
I might have an extra.
That's
Yep, I'll go see. Still have it, but yes. Okay, put your headphones on your desk, somewhere where I can come and get it. You'll need a scientific calculator for the class.
I have a graphic calculator.
Yeah, we'll accept that. I don't like it, but I'll accept it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like.
Okay, a couple of things. Write your name. You can write the quiz on it. I forgot to title the quiz, so it's A1 through 5. And then the block number. You fully fill in the circle. You can use pen or pencil, but if you use pen, you won't be able to erase it and you'll confuse it. Any questions you do not answer, as in there aren't those questions, just leave them blank. Don't fill them in because I use them for other things. Make sure you put your version number. You'll have version 1 or you'll have version 2. The long answer question, of which there is only one, you do right on the sheet.
This sheet or that sheet?
This sheet I'm about to give you.
Okay.
Good?
Don't we get started?
You can start as soon as you get it.
Where do you put the verse? We don't know.
Oh, I see the
We don't know what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Does the student ID not ID?
Nope, leave the student ID blank. I haven't actually given you a student ID yet. You still need to do that. Yes. It's a good question. You can please put your answers on the multiple choice sheet, but on the actual quiz, you can write whatever you want to